Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, the 11th of October, and Bunty has come to say hello, which is unusual. It's normally Toby, but I think she suddenly realised that I'm sitting next to her, so, what's going on? Today, I want to talk about Movember. I have previously organised at work our Movember activities, and I'm doing so again this year. So I have just sent out a notice for our notice boards inviting people to sign up to the team. We are the Busco Mobros. Silly name, but it's all a bit of fun. But it's all a bit of fun in a very good cause. So I wanted to talk a little bit about men's health today. I am very aware that because my main podcast is a crochet and knitting podcast, that the vast majority of my viewers are women. And so the specific details of men's health will probably elude most of you. But at the same time, you will all have fathers, possibly brothers, sons, husbands, boyfriends, whatever. Significant men in your life for whom men's health issues are obviously very important. And one of the most significant differences between men and women is that because of the differences in our bodies and the fact that women's bodies require monthly maintenance, shall we say, I mean, don't like to put it in those terms, but you get my drift. Women tend to be much more aware of changes in their body and more likely to seek medical help, or at least discuss such a thing with their friends. One of the interesting things that the Movember Foundation does, and Movember is an international organisation, I think it started in Australia, and I should explain a little bit about the name. Movember is a pun on moustache and November, so it becomes Movember. And one of the interesting bits of research that they've done, they've surveyed men in a variety of different countries, and 70% of men say that they are there for their friends to talk to them about any personal matter that they may have. But less than 50% of them would actually talk to their friends about such a matter, or have actually talked to their friends about such a matter. So there is a gap between the availability on the one hand and the willingness to use that availability when the need arises. And there's a combination of reasons for this. I suspect that men just don't like to burden other people with their issues until they become so great that they have to let it out before they explode. And probably also men think that they can cope. You know, we think from the very outset that nothing is impossible to us. We're Supermen. We can do anything we set our mind to. And there is a huge amount of self-sufficiency within masculine identity. But there is clearly an issue because across the world, regardless of the life expectancy level, men's life expectancy is on average 6 years below that of women's. And that's in all cultures across the globe, regardless of the level at which female life expectancy exists. And part of that is not dealing with health issues in a timely fashion. So Movember Foundation funds 3 particular areas of men's health issues: mental health issues, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. And so to look at the 3 of them in that order, I mean, why not? Mental health issues in the UK affect approximately 1 in 8 men. And 3 out of every 4 suicides is male. And on top of that, suicide is the single biggest killer of young men under the age of 35. And that final statistic is staggering. One might have thought that perhaps motor accidents would be the likeliest, but in fact, suicide kills more young men than any other cause of death. And this is clearly a serious concern. Those of you who follow my blog post, my podcast rather, are aware that I suffer from mental health issues and have lived with mental health issues for at least the last quarter century, probably longer, but certainly diagnosed for the last quarter century. And it's an issue that has a lot of stigma attached to it. Not necessarily stigma from the individual, but I know that, for example, that at least one of my bosses has viewed me as less than capable because I have a mental health issue. And that can be quite difficult for some men to acknowledge and live with, and so they don't talk about it amongst colleagues, which, given that we spend such a large amount of our time at work, particularly when we're younger, and particularly if we are aspiring to have a career, not being able to talk about such a significant aspect of your life in the workplace is obviously taking away quite a large area of the release, if you like. And if you're going out for a good time, what then kicks in is, I don't want to burden my friends with this nonsense in my life, and I don't want people to think less of me. I mean, I know from my own experience that I have faced prejudice. I have been evicted from my previous home before I moved in here, partly on the basis because I spent a month in a mental health ward of a hospital. Actually, it was a mental health hospital. And once the letting agents learned this, they couldn't wait for us to leave the property. And it was brutal, and it was staggering because this was 2006, and surely things like that didn't happen in 2006. And so I know that there is not just an imagined stigma, there is a particular view of mental health issues which disadvantages people who suffer from them, and people who see that themselves don't want to acknowledge their own condition and get the help that helps them to not just get through every day, but perhaps even to get better, or at least to have a more fulfilled and complete day-to-day life. So that there is a need for men to talk about how they are. And one of the things that we need to do then is to provide men with the opportunity to talk, which means making ourselves available to them for them to talk. Now, sometimes it's easier talking to another man. Sometimes it's easier talking to a woman. There are particular things to bear in mind. First of all, you are not a counsellor or a doctor. You cannot give advice, but what you can do is listen and give support and suggest possible ways of dealing with whatever is going on that's creating the mental health situation. On the one hand, but again, at the same time, you yourself also need to be aware that if someone starts talking to you about their mental health issues, that can take you to some very dark places, and you have to be mentally prepared for that and emotionally prepared for that. And you yourself must not then bottle everything up, but be able to get the help and support you need while you're helping and supporting, particularly if it's a loved one, if it's a husband or a boyfriend or a son. And what is also very important is how you go about the conversation. You have to be prepared for the fact that you have psyched yourself up and prepared yourself to be in a place where you can talk to, and more importantly, they can talk to you about whatever it is that's troubling them. You have to prepare yourself for the fact that they may not want to talk to you about it. And you have to not be offended and not take umbrage and not despair or give up on them. It may just not be right at this moment that they can talk to you, but they may, making yourself available on multiple occasions eventually may let them feel that you actually do want to know and do want to help, and that they're not burdening you, and that even if they are burdening you, it's a burden that you are happy to help them bear. And I think also, if you can, one of the most important things about listening to somebody who wants to share is the right environment. Particularly for men like to be doing something. It's very difficult for a man actually to sit down face to face and just start talking. We like to be doing something. So whether that is going for a nature ramble, walking the dogs, maybe sitting on the sofa watching a TV, or sitting on the sofa playing a computer game, or sitting side by side on a park bench, or sitting next to each other having a cup of coffee or a pint of beer at the bar, or whatever it happens to be. Those are the shoulder to shoulder approach often works better with men rather than that face to face style. It can be difficult sometimes to say what you feel when you're looking at somebody, and so those are possible ways in which we can help men who have mental health issues. In terms of prostate cancer is something that affects older men more than younger men. Staggeringly, if it is detected in its early stages, there is a 98% survival rate. If it's not detected until all of the symptoms that are associated with prostate cancer, in particular a leaky bladder, or waking several times in the night because you need to keep going to the loo, or erectile dysfunction, all of these things tend to be when there is a tumour and it's already growing. And in those circumstances, depending how late it is, survival rates can drop to about a quarter. So it's very important for men to be aware of prostate cancer. And the Movember Foundation's recommendation is that men at the age of 50, or black men at the age of 45, or men who have a father or other close relative who has had or is living with prostate cancer at 45, to speak to their doctor. There is a prostate-specific antigen blood test that can be done, the PSA blood test, which can help detect the very earliest signs of prostate cancer. It is normal for men's prostate to increase in size as they get older, particularly past 50. So the normal prostate exam doesn't necessarily give a very good indication of any abnormality until the abnormality is actually quite pronounced, a tumour. So encouraging men to speak to their GP about the possibility of a PSA test, and to see whether or not their doctor thinks that they have any symptoms that might lead them to believe that actually they should. And the reason for black men at 45 is because there is a higher incidence. And so it is simply acknowledging the slight variations in our makeup that our ethnic origins give us. And obviously, if a close male relative has had the same cancer, then there is a strong possibility of the genetic link. So those are positive ideas to communicate. And then finally, testicular cancer, which is the most common cancer in men under 35. And it's rather like, I guess, breast cancer for women. Knowing what that particular part of the anatomy should be like, and checking regularly enables you to detect early oddness, extra lumps and bumps that aren't normally there. And so young men, teenagers, should be encouraged to get to know, I mean, not that teenage boys need much encouragement, but should be checking themselves on a regular basis, particularly after a bath or a shower when, because of the heat and the warm water, everything is going to be much more relaxed and you can really get a good sense of what is the normal shape and size of your testes. And then to regularly check once a week, once a month, however often. And yes, these are embarrassing subjects, and to talk to our male relatives and friends and about these subjects is embarrassing, but nobody wants to die of embarrassment. And again, with testicular cancer, if detected early, the survival rate is in the high 90s. And I've known 4 men who've had testicular cancer, all of whom detected it early, all of whom have lived for more than 10 years since their cancer without any further difficulties or problems arising, and all of whom have gone on to have families. So it's not a death sentence to their virility or anything like that. Although there are methods of storage that can be undertaken in order to allay any fears if chemotherapy and radiotherapy are actually necessary as part of the treatment. So I think, I work in an industry which is predominantly male. In my company, 91% of my colleagues are male. Of the driving staff, which it makes up about 500, 40% are over the age of 50, and a further 30% are over the age of 40. So that's 70% of my driving colleagues are male and over 40, which means that they are very much prone to the big killers. Prostate cancer is the most common cause of death for older men, other than heart disease and lung cancer. So it's a serious matter, and we need to talk about it, and we need to encourage men to talk about their health, their well-being. And so we take part in Movember. So obviously Vlogtober will be over by Movember, which is the 1st of November, but during my regular podcast each week, you will probably see the furry caterpillar beginning to appear on the top lip. I don't always shave every day anyway, and everyone remembers the significant change in my look from my first podcast to my second, when I decided to shave off my winter coat, as it were. So I will put some links in the description box of this video to Movember and to resources for mental health issues and for prostate cancer and testicular cancer. If you can't take part in Movember, either because you're a woman and therefore can't grow a moustache, or because of any other reason, you can encourage your male family and friends to be aware of their own health issues. And also the other thing that Movember has now started to do is something called Movember. So as well as growing a tash to raise awareness of male health issues, we're also encouraged to take more exercise. So during November, as well as growing the tash, anybody can commit to an increased level of exercise, whether that's walking more, getting off a bus, a stop before our usual stop, taking stairs instead of the lift or elevator. A number of things that we can do that will increase our mobility. And that is another thing that has been shown to significantly reduce health risks, particularly as we get older. So equally, I will put a link, and I'm going to do this because I believe in this cause. I'll put a link in down below to my Movember page, and if you feel so inclined, any donations to the foundation will be very gratefully received. As I say, we've done this twice before. We do it every other year. So this is our third time of doing this. We've done it twice before, and we've raised just over £1,500 in that time, which is good. And we do this by a variety of methods. Particularly, we have a couple of bake sales, and we have fundraising through sponsorship for individuals as well, and my company has also matched our donation the last time around, because clearly men's health issues are a big concern to a company that employs 90% males. So I hope you don't mind that I've talked about Movember in this post, and I hope that some of the information I've given you will help you to help your menfolk to live happier, healthier lives. And so until tomorrow, I will say goodbye, and I look forward to speaking with you again then. Bye.